And you know what? I'm going to use the hashtag Black Fatigue so that the whites making that content see this video. Black fatigue already has a meaning, and it's not the one that you think it is. Black fatigue means the emotional toll, the exhaustion inherent in living under systemic racism and having to deal with that shit day in and day out and live in a society and a culture that is, the deck is stacked against you and the rules are made to discriminate against you and make your fucking life harder. That is what that phrase means. You are co-opting that phrase and making it into something fucking, just say what you fucking mean. All the people who really genuinely seem to believe that their First Amendment rights include the right to avoid any kind of social consequences for the things that they say and get so fucking butthurt about their fucking free speech.
App just now to see that the word black fatigue is trending amongst a lot of different people. And before I made this video, I scrolled on it and I said, let me see what people are talking about.
Because black fatigue is real. I think society as a whole is there. We are just so unbelievably fed up with the ghetto ratchet behavior, entitlement, the victimhood, rattery, animalistic. This is why people have black fatigue. I'm sick and tired of opening up TikTok and seeing brawls on cruise ships, brawls in the airport, like literally the most ghetto behavior. We're tired.
There was a white woman who has now since deleted her video talking about black fatigue and how she and the rest of society are so fed up with the ghetto and ratchet behavior, the entitlement, the victimhood. Her words, not mine. Couple of things. One, black fatigue is a real thing, but it's not what that lady was saying. Black fatigue is the emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by the daily stress of living under systemic racism and its consequences.
If you're a white person claiming to have black fatigue, get fucking bent. What do you think black people have? Oh, poor white people have black fatigue, so tired of being politically correct and treating them like people. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? Black people in 2025 are still seeing instances every day where white people are treating them less than human.
There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from lack of sleep. It comes from constantly having to prove your humanity. That's black fatigue. It's the invisible tiredness that seeps into the soul after generations of fighting to be seen, understood, and treated equally. But here's the thing, when white people talk about black fatigue, it's almost like they're describing something else entirely. For them, it's theoretical, distant, academic, something to acknowledge rather than feel. For black people, it's lived, daily, and deeply personal. I remember a moment, years ago, sitting in a corporate diversity meeting when a white colleague said, "We all get tired of racism conversations." And I remember thinking, no, you get bored. We get tired. There's a difference.
You know why people won't talk about black fatigue to your face? Because a lot of you guys are really violent.
Sorry? There's actually no way that's a video someone has uploaded to the public. Like, of course, all forms of racism are equally as bad. I think it takes a certain strand of individual to have the, I wouldn't even call it confidence, it's more just ignorance to think that that's a perfectly okay thing to use to post. The whole concept of black fatigue going around does just seem like a way for racists to get away with saying whatever they want online. And I mean, the proof is in that guy's video.
If the idea upsets you, you will commit acts of violence. And that is not characteristic of somebody that belongs in a civilized society.
I mean, how ignorant can you be to think that, number one, that's an acceptable thing for you to say, and number two, that that's something you should be posting online? I think it's really important that we, as a collective, call out this type of behaviour when we see it. Otherwise, trends like black fatigue are just going to get more and more out of hand to the point where it's going to become normalised. And I think we can look at the decline of Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, and realise it's probably not a good thing, because right now on Twitter, you can't go more than 2 scrolls without seeing some far-right activists shouting about immigration. I think we can all agree it's probably not a great thing for the platform.
If you're a white person claiming to have black fatigue, get fucking bent. What do you think black people have? Oh, poor white people have black fatigue, so tired of being politically correct and treating them like people. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? Black people in 2025 are still seeing instances every day where white people are treating them less than human. We had something literally a week ago where someone has raked in $600,000+ for calling a black autistic child the N-word after he took something out of her son's bag. Black fatigue? You have black fatigue? What the fuck do you think black people of color have in this country? They have got to be so fatigued of fighting the same fight for decades, centuries, day after day. And you think you have fatigue? You're a weak piece of shit if you have black fatigue. This happens every single day where there are signs and acts of racism that shows that it's not gone. And if anything, because of Donald Trump and MAGA, it is coming back stronger than ever. And it's no longer just in the shadows. It is out in full broad daylight, in public, and is just laughing in the face of black people. So you want to talk about having black fatigue? That is the weakest ass shit I have ever heard. And embarrassed for white people. Anybody who says they have black fatigue, like I said, get fucking bent, because you don't know shit about anything. How pathetic.
Black fatigue is not a metaphor. It's a condition of emotional and psychological work caused by the constant stress of racism. It's a cumulative exhaustion built over centuries. The weight of systemic inequities, daily microaggressions, and the emotional labor of constantly explaining, teaching, defending, or downplaying one's experience just to survive. But when white people hear the term black fatigue, it's often filtered through a lens of misunderstanding. They see it as personal burnout, like a stress issue, not a reflection of systemic harm. It's as if they believe the solution is self-care, not structural change. The difference lies in perception. White people often think of fatigue as something temporary, something you rest away. For black people, it's generational. It's inherited trauma, continuous vigilance, the quiet endurance of navigating spaces never designed for your comfort.
There was a white woman who has now since deleted her video talking about black fatigue and how she and the rest of society are so fed up with the ghetto and ratchet behavior, the entitlement, the victimhood. Her words, not mine. Couple of things. One, black fatigue is a real thing, but it's not what that lady was saying. Black fatigue is the emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by the daily stress of living under systemic racism and its consequences. So the black community has black fatigue due to the oppression they've lived under in this country since its inception. 2, it never ceases to amaze me how little most white people are willing to look at the true history of this nation and understand that while they personally may not have owned slaves or lynched black people or used black babies as alligator bait or conducted experiments on black people or operated on black women without pain medicine because they didn't think black women could feel pain, they are still benefiting off the society and systems that made those things possible. Racism is deeply rooted in this country from the beginning. We stole this land from the indigenous Native Americans. We brought black people to this country against their will and sold them into slaveries. We ripped their families apart. We have maligned, maimed, and misused the black community since the first ship arrived on the shores of the United States. Do you understand how hard the fight has been to get even a semblance of equality in this country? And now, what little progress we've made is being undone by this administration. Trump and this administration has made people like that woman and the many racist commenters on that post feel comfortable to speak so publicly about their racist views and feelings. Because, spoiler alert, nothing will happen to them. Black people are questioned about everything they do, even if they're just walking down the street. Until this country as a whole accepts responsibility for how we were designed and built, this country will never see true equality.
And you know what? I'm going to use the hashtag Black Fatigue so that the whites making that content see this video. Black fatigue already has a meaning, and it's not the one that you think it is. Black fatigue means the emotional toll, the exhaustion inherent in living under systemic racism and having to deal with that shit day in and day out and live in a society and a culture that is, the deck is stacked against you and the rules are made to discriminate against you and make your fucking life harder. That is what that phrase means. You are co-opting that phrase and making it into something fucking, just say what you fucking mean. All the people who really genuinely seem to believe that their First Amendment rights include the right to avoid any kind of social consequences for the things that they say and get so fucking butthurt about their fucking free speech. Let me tell you, they understand that they are going to have social consequences from the shit that they say. Some of them do anyway, which is why they co-opt phrases like black fatigue. This is like when a narcissist goes to therapy and learns all of the therapy language so that they can then go out and try to gaslight and abuse all of the people in their lives. If you don't like black people and you're tired of hearing about black people and hearing from black people and having black people around you or in your face or in your culture, just say that. You're using a phrase like black fatigue to try to make what you're saying sound like it is some sort of intellectual discourse that we're having. This is not intellectual discourse. This is you're a racist and a bigot. Just be a racist and a bigot. Oh, what? Are you afraid of the social consequences of that behavior? Gasp. Let me clutch my pearls.
To many white people, black fatigue sounds like emotional fragility, a lack of resilience. They frame it as overreacting or dwelling on the past. But that's because they've never had to carry centuries of trauma in their DNA. White America tends to intellectualize racism instead of internalizing it. They want to understand it without feeling it. So when black people express exhaustion, they respond with performative empathy. I can't imagine how you feel. And that's the problem. They don't imagine it. They stop right there. There's a disconnection between acknowledgement and action. White people often want to fix the optics, not the system. They get fatigued from hearing about racism. Black people get fatigued from living it every day.
App just now to see that the word black fatigue is trending amongst a lot of different people. And before I made this video, I scrolled on it and I said, let me see what people are talking about.
Because black fatigue is real. I think society as a whole is there. We are just so unbelievably fed up with the ghetto ratchet behavior, entitlement, the victimhood, rattery, animalistic. This is why people have black fatigue. I'm sick and tired of opening up TikTok and seeing brawls on cruise ships, brawls in the airport, like literally the most ghetto behavior. We're tired.
A white woman was talking about Shiloh Hendricks, the lady that called the 5-year-old the N-word. And she said, that shouldn't have happened, but people have black fatigue. People are tired of ghetto-ness, loudness. People are just tired of black people. So we all have fatigue. And it got me thinking, I've heard the phrase black fatigue before. And I know in my heart of hearts that that relates to the fatigue that black people experience existing in this country and around the world, dealing with racism and prejudices that have been put on us due to the history of violence, Jim Crow, segregation. So how are white people appropriating black fatigue? They replaced DEI with black fatigue. And you guys are using that because you're tired of being held accountable for things that you should be held accountable for in this country, and you want to be openly racist to us. This entire discourse is rooted in racism. You want to be able to say you're tired of black people for having a voice. You're tired of us for existing in spaces we exist in. You're tired of us for not all being poor. Tired of us. You're tired of the fact that some of us are doing better than you. But when we live in a country that is based on racism and systematic racism that still exists today, you can't be mad that we're calling you out for it. What the fuck are we talking about? America is a country that suffers from delusion, lack of education, and basically exists in a consistent state of dementia. Because the cognitive dissonance that many white people have that exist in this country it alarms me. The fact that this country was founded and predicated on owning bodies and killing off natives. That is the foundation story of this country. Yes, we became one of the most successful countries in the world, but that is the heart and soul of this country. It is rooted in racism. The Declaration of Independence was rooted in racism. The Constitution was written with racism. So the fact that you think you can exist, and we're only out of segregation for how many years now? Not even a generation, not even 2 generations out of segregation. The fact that you think you can exist without racism internally inside of you is crazy. It's crazy. We're all racist. Everybody that exists out of a racist system is racist, especially if you are the one that benefited from said racism. You have to do a lot of unlearning, unpacking, and re-educating yourself onto what racism means, because you guys hear the word racism and you're like, I'm not racist, I have black friends. It doesn't mean you're going out with crosses on fire. There are levels to the internalized racism, the internalized biases versus violent, aggressive racism. But racism is the foundation of America. So the fact that you don't want to hear about it is not my problem. The funniest thing about white people in this country is that the lack of education that they have on their own history and how they've been all sold a lie and socialized to believe that they're here and we're violent and they're not is fucking crazy. You ever seen a redneck? You ever been to a trailer park? You ever seen a meth addict in New Mexico? That all of the people on welfare in this country are white. 96% of them are white. But meanwhile, black people are poor, uneducated, animalistic, violent, all the list goes on. Your ancestors literally killed off millions of people who were on this land, stole it, raped, robbed, killed them, stole us, raped, robbed, killed us, procreated with us, and made us procreate with each other and our families. Yeah, the list goes on. The only people who are sick with animalistic practices are you and your ancestors. Upon further review, after seeing 5 or 6 black people make this black fatigue video, it got me thinking into the respectability politics of this type of video they're making, because not only are they generalizing the actions of all black people and lumping us into one group, you are policing the actions of people per the standardized or acceptable behavior that white people are saying that we should have. Interesting. What you're doing by making these videos is you're allowing white people to not take accountability and not hold themselves to a standard that they can just be racist and prejudiced towards us and say that their behaviors are acceptable and their way of life and living is acceptable in this country, but ours isn't. It's really befuddling me that you as a black person can go online with your chest and say you have black fatigue because everybody's ghetto, or you have black fatigue because everybody's loud. That's not the fucking case. And even if you are, quote unquote, this highly educated, highly classy black person, you're still loud. You still have an auntie who looks like the person you're talking about. You still have cousins who are the people you're talking about. So why make this video? I will never understand black people that pander to white people. I will never. There's nothing in my being that would ever allow me to have an internal conversation externally on this app. So white people feel comfortable saying how they feel about us in the open and make it a whole thing. Imagine you are allowing white person to say they have black fatigue. They're tired of black people being victims. They're tired of black people saying racism. They're tired of black people existing. Every day on this app is something new. Y'all gotta do better. Do better.
This isn't just emotional, it's neurological. Studies show that chronic exposure to racism and microaggressions triggers stress responses that affect health outcomes, from hypertension to anxiety. It's the psychological equivalent of running a marathon with a weight vest you never asked for. I remember speaking with a friend who said, "Even joy feels temporary when the world keeps reminding you of your place." That's the essence of black fatigue. Finding moments of peace while waiting for the next act of injustice. Meanwhile, white people view fatigue as something to recover from. For them, rest is an option. For black people, rest is resistance, and sometimes even that feels unsafe.
I never thought that I would see evil and stupidity taking over, but I guess that's why people say never, because at this point, anything is possible, and it's happening. It's happening so fast that I have to constantly remind myself that I am not crazy. I'm not delusional for having empathy and for wanting to see progress for this country and everyone in it. Because MAGA, the Christian conservatives, all of them, they are working so hard to normalize the bullshit that they are allowing. They want people to believe that it's abnormal to care and that it's normal to be filled with hate. The way they're going so hard to defend pedophiles, to defend cuts to services that are supposed to help people, to defend ridiculous government spending is insane to me. We are watching them, people with no credentials, argue with experts and convincing themselves and each other that their word is final. And of course, I blame Trump for that because he is the prime example of someone who has no credentials, who has no knowledge on things and just talks a whole bunch of shit as if he is the final answer. But it's just so sad because I really fear for future generations witnessing this, growing up and seeing these things and thinking this is the way the world works, because it shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't. But here we are.
Black fatigue is real. I think society as a whole is there. We are just so unbelievably fed up with the ghetto ratchet behavior.
Black fatigue. It's all over my FYP page. Thank you. I am so happy that this is being brought up. And oh, by the way, for us white people who've been around the block a long time, this isn't new to us. We've been dealing with this for over 40.
I'm gonna help y'all get some rest because you're just so damn tired. Here we go. The term was created by us for us.
What if, to solve y'all fatigue with black people, we just left? We just went back to Africa. Oh wait, we tried that in the early 1900s when Marcus Garvey launched the Back to Africa movement, when he literally signed a deal with Liberia, but guess who shut it down? The U.S. government wouldn't even let the ships leave. What if we built our own towns away from white folks so we can't even be in proximity to fatigue y'all? Darn, we tried that too in the form of freedmen's towns in states like Oklahoma, Black Wall Street being one of them, which was thriving, and we had our own businesses, banks, hospitals, schools, and what happened? The Tulsa Race Massacre. White mobs burned it all to the ground. Government planes dropped firebombs. People were slaughtered. So no, we weren't left alone. But what if we just live in our own neighborhoods away from y'all? Oh wait, then y'all want to move in, raise the rent, rename everything, and call it up and coming. It's giving gentrification, not boundaries.
So I guess the real question is, if y'all are so fatigued by black people, then why are y'all always trying to follow us? Why are y'all always trying to control us? Surveil us, regulate our tone, our volume, our hair, our joy? It's because y'all really don't want us gone. Y'all want us contained inside whatever version of respectability you've created in your imagination. And it's not giving fatigued. It's giving obsessed.
This all finally brings me to an academic field called whiteness studies. Look it up. Specifically to Dr. Robin DiAngelo, pictured here, in her framing of her terms universalism and individualism. White folks get to be universal, which is the default standard of behavior, and they get to be individuals. Their mistakes are theirs, not the whole race. But black people, we get neither. We don't get the privilege of being individual and universal.
If one of us acts quote unquote ghetto, then we're all suddenly the problem. And then you determine our behavior by your respectability politics in the first place, which black beings and black bodies don't have to abide by anyways. If it were up to y'all, we would not be allowed any individuality or complexity. To y'all, we just get exhaustion for anything that we do. Ever consider that maybe it's not black people that's causing your fatigue? And maybe it's the reflection, because when whiteness sees itself in the mirror through our resistance, our joy, our success, our ability to self-define, it gets tired. But here's the thing. We've been tired. Y'all are just late.
Here's the twist. White people also experience something called white fatigue. But it's not the same thing. It's frustration with being held accountable. It's exhaustion from hearing about racism, not experiencing it. It's what happens when privilege meets discomfort. The irony? White fatigue ends when the conversation ends. Black fatigue never does. And yet, both groups exist in the same ecosystem. One tired of confronting truth, the other tired of surviving it. That imbalance keeps the cycle alive.
So now y'all got black fatigue because black people are calling y'all out saying no and saying fuck around and find out. Now all of a sudden y'all are exhausted from black people. Like y'all show every single day that y'all are more tired of speaking of the people that speak up about racism and inequalities, and y'all don't really care about the actual racism and inequalities that people suffer from. But we are the ones that have a victim mindset. Please make it make sense. And then another thing, y'all are literally using the term incorrectly. That is not what black fatigue means. I'm gonna make it easy and just read it straight from ChatGPT because y'all just seem like y'all don't know anything. Black fatigue refers to the physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion experienced by many black people as a result of enduring systematic racism, discrimination, and repeated racial trauma over time. And then the people that are using it in a way to say that they're tired of specific black groups, as far as like this ghetto black people, white people use the term to describe black people when we were in the slums, actually when they put us in the projects because we didn't have anything because of literally slavery and Jim Crow. I can keep going on. So we were in the ghetto, but then everything that we did was ghetto. But in today, black people are not the only ones that's ghetto. Y'all don't call the Karen who yells at employees in the goddamn retail stores ghetto, because that's very ghetto. You know how many white people I have seen fighting? Very ghetto. In public, I have neighbors and people that live near me, white people, who will walk their dogs with their headscarf or bonnet or whatever they want to use on their head in a robe. Yet when black people do it, let a black woman go outside in her robe and her bonnet to walk her dog. Y'all gonna call it ghetto. Do you know how many times I've been to a restaurant and there was a table of white people, loud, drunk and loud? Stop associating the term ghetto with black people. And to be honest, all of y'all are exhausted. All of y'all just lack accountability. Some of y'all are just brainwashed. And the majority of y'all talking on these topics are so freaking uneducated. It is mind-blowing. Y'all have no idea what y'all talking about. Like, y'all see somebody throw a term out on the internet and y'all all just run with it without even knowing the history or the actual freaking definition of the term. You cannot oppress and discriminate against a group of people and then get upset and say that you're exhausted from them speaking out about them being oppressed. Bro, the gaslighting and lack of accountability. And then y'all try to act like, well, it's not us. We are not our ancestors. We didn't do that to y'all ancestors. Hate crimes happen today. Hate crimes, pay gaps, racial discrimination with jobs and housing still happens today. Didn't one of these banks, credit unions, just get called out for denying more black loans than anybody, even though those people qualified? And y'all trying to act like we're not acting like the victims. We are victims. And instead of owning up to the fact that this country has a problem, y'all sit here and try to gaslight somebody to thinking that they're just making something a problem that's not a problem. Like, this is not made up in our brains. This is not just something that we're just pulling out of our ass. And if it was something that we were lying about, y'all would not be trying to take it, just hide y'all history so bad. Y'all just want to take history out of the history books and what y'all did to our ancestors so we can just look like the bad guys. Black people can just look like we're just poor because of our own fault. The crack epidemic happened because of us, not because of y'all. Y'all really want to paint the picture that we are the problem. While y'all was studying on our brains back then, somebody need to study y'all's, because it's truly sickening the way that y'all think sometimes.
I am so glad that black fatigue came across my timeline this morning. And I will actually be able to say, black people around the world, whether you're French, Latino, whatever, we're tired. And for you guys who don't know, there's a difference between black people and the N-word. Black people don't feel oppressed. They want to change their circumstances. they want to go to school, and they want to make a better way for themselves. And even if they're currently on EBT, they have a plan to get off of it and be successful. The N-words want Section 8 forever, want to be on EBT forever, messes up their neighborhoods, burn things, tear down things, and nobody wants to live next to them. So there's nobody more tired and fatigued than black people of N-words. And you guys don't understand that. So when you have a person like Shiloh that comes out and calls this kid an N-word, even though you don't think it was appropriate, you can understand where she's coming from, because we don't even want to live by you. And so now you're getting upset that someone decides to stand up, because we live in a world where the N-words get to say anything that they want to say to anyone, call people out of their names, be rude, use all type of slanders. And the first moment someone of a different nationality says something, then it's a problem. They're a racist, you're misogynist, all these different things. And I'll tell you, I'm tired too. And I am so glad that someone just came straight out and said it. But if you guys don't know, there's a difference between black people and the N-word. And honestly, black people are tired of all of the N-word.
But here's where things shift. A growing number of white people are no longer ignoring it. They're confronting their own fatigue and realizing that discomfort is the point. Some are learning that allyship means listening more than speaking, feeling instead of explaining. When white people start to feel even a fraction of the exhaustion they've ignored, that's when the system starts to change. Because empathy isn't intellectual, it's emotional.
So this black fatigue bullshit that racists are coming up with to say that they're tired of black people talking about anti-blackness is exactly why I talk about anti-blackness so much. And I understand if there are people who are like wary or suspicious of me as a non-black person constantly talking about anti-blackness. Because at some point, right, it's like, okay, can we even trust you? I'm sure you've been anti-black in your past. Like, what's the deal here? And like, I'm going to tell you right now, I have been anti-black in my past. I will be anti-black in the future, and I'm anti-black right now because I'm a non-black person in an anti-black world. And as somebody who actively tries to be anti-racist and actively tries to be in solidarity with Black Americans, that is like, for lack of a better term, a sin that I do not take lightly. And something that I actively try to interrogate, something I try to move away from, and something I try to work on constantly. And one of the reasons that I continuously talk about anti-blackness on my page, whether it's calling it out, whether it's explaining it, is because I am a person of color, right? Like, I am against racism, and anti-blackness is the foundational racism, the foundation of white supremacy. And not just in America, but like heavy as fuck in America, but across the world. And I just feel like if you are a progressive political content creator, if you can't call out anti-blackness, if you can't even see it in fucking microaggressions, if you can't recognize it in yourself when it's called out, if you can't try to rectify that, then what the fuck are you even doing? You know, why the fuck are you even talking? And specifically when we talk about this black fatigue bullshit, it is so fucking audacious of white people to come on here and say that they have black fatigue after the election we just had, after the centuries of oppression that Black Americans have endured. Like, I've seen some of my mutuals talk about black fatigue, and, you know, they're talking about it from a content creator perspective, they're talking about it from a truthful perspective, but honestly, I don't think I've ever seen my mutuals on here look so fucking exhausted and hurt by this fucking bullshit. Because it truly is like, how fucking dare? It's disgusting. I don't know. I feel like I've seen a lot, especially within the past year, non-black POC like demand solidarity from the black community, citing the solidarity between the black community and other communities of color. But there's always a noted lack of understanding that that solidarity originated from Black Americans extending solidarity outward, extending their support, extending the power that they have built under oppression to help expand their liberation efforts to other people affected by white supremacy. And it is never fucking returned in kind. Instead, it is shot down, it is shunned, and it is pushed away when they need solidarity the most. And then when we want solidarity back, when we are in trouble, we demand that Black Americans still fucking help us, even after we've pushed them over the edge. So I understand if some people feel uncomfortable with me talking about anti-blackness, and I also understand if I overstep sometimes and people call me out on it. But I'm not going to stop like being in solidarity in the best way that I can. And I promise that when I overstep, I'm really going to stop and think about what I'm doing and redirect the best way that I can. Because the honest to God's truth is that we wouldn't have black fatigue if anti-blackness wasn't a fucking problem. So if white people are upset and have black fatigue, they need to stop being anti-black and check their own fucking people on it. So like, I am going to do my best, even though it's imperfect, to continue speaking out about this as best that I can. And I always will. And like, that's not the focus of everything I do. It's just that when you talk about politics, when you talk about racism, if you're not talking about anti-blackness, especially in 2025, And if that's not a part of your analysis of every fucking thing you talk about, what the fuck are you doing? And how can anyone trust your judgment on anything? Like, I will never understand the pain of being a black person in America at any point in history, but definitely not in this moment. And all I can do is just try to be in solidarity the best way that I fucking can.
Maybe one day, we won't have to use the word fatigue to describe Black existence. Maybe one day, the exhaustion will be replaced by ease, not survival. Until then, we keep speaking truth. We keep resting, resisting, and reminding the world that Black fatigue is not fragility, it's endurance made visible.